Okay. I should be live. Everything should be good. Let me just quickly get a drink. Hope everybody's doing well. I fixed my webcam, finally. Took me a while to discover that my webcam wasn't actually working properly, because it turns out, give me 2 seconds here, I'll show you. If you have automatic settings on the webcam, like for example, also I need to exclude stream elements from the chat. Give me 2 seconds that I write that down. There's a bunch of things that I'm trying to fix on my stream. Hey Malogify, nice to see you. Always showing up immediately when I hit the start streaming button. Or sometimes even earlier when I announce them. Klaus also here. Nice to see all of the regulars. So yeah, I fixed my camera. I fixed my webcam. As you can see now, it's all nice and smooth. Before in the videos as well, it was not very nice, and it was like staggering and stuff like that. I can show you what the problem is. If I go in here and I go to the properties and then configure video, there's this thing here, which is the exposure, which was set to automatic. With my lighting setup, I don't have like direct lighting. I have my lighting pointed at a big orange cloth behind the webcam. So I have another, like similar to one of these cloths or artworks, that is like this orange color, and that's what my light is pointing at, so that I get the nice warm lighting is the idea. But that means that there's no direct lighting, and therefore I'm darker than I'm supposed to be with like a camera or webcam. So this was set to automatic and therefore didn't compensate. So what I did was I turned it off, set it to like -5, which is the normal one. And then I boosted my gain, which is basically just lights everything up equally. And a bunch of different settings. The annoying thing about this control panel is that every time I turn off my PC and turn it back on again, all of the settings reset. So I need to reset the zoom, I need to reset exposure, I need to reset basically all of these settings here. Even the like power line frequency, all of that stuff, all needs to be reset to the different setting. Malogify even sleeps with YouTube open. He's always the first. Ga je naar Boom Festival de aankomende zomer? Geen idee. Moet kijken. Ik heb geen plannen. Zullen we wel zien. Ik wil wel naar een aantal festivals. Boom is misschien niet het chillste festival voor mij naartoe te gaan. I'm speaking in Dutch because, just to answer this question. Misschien Ozora is wat chiller voor mij, ook qua reizen en zo, is wat dichterbij. Dus als ik naar een festival zou willen gaan, dan zou ik denk ik eerder daarnaar kijken dan naar Boom. Om eerlijk te zijn, heb ik er niet zo heel veel verstand van. Van de festivals niet. Ik ben meer de producent. You forgot? I didn't forget Dutch. No. I still talk to my parents. Sometimes. Anyway. This is a project that I've shown off a lot on my stream. You might have remembered the break that we made here, the intro. We did a lot of the atmospheres on stream, a lot of the stuff. I've worked on it a little bit. My goal today is really to try to get this to like a finished production, which means mainly like detail work. I want to fill in some of the fills. I might have notes here. Yep. So there's a bit of stuff in here that we need to look at and fill out. The first thing that I just want to do is just to listen to it. I'm still in full screen. I'm no longer in full screen. You guys didn't see anything of what I talked about with the camera stuff. I'm a great streamer, I know. I also produce on those festivals, always give me a whole new year of inspiration. Yeah, sure, 100%. It's just that, like, I don't know, I need to see, like, what I'm doing in the summer. If I have a lot of university stuff, then I might not be able to make it a bunch of different things. Try to put this towards the end here. It's a bit more of a normal structure as well.
Matrix.
This one still applies. I don't think I want this. I leave it in here, but I'll make it orange to indicate that I'm not sure. Feels okay. I want more stuff in here. I like the synth that I have now. It just needs a little bit more power and aggression, like coming out of the acid line. Also, the acid line here might be a bit too loud. Still not certain about this stuff. I like the sound, it just doesn't work in the track for me. Like the switch is maybe too fast. So I'll write down transition. Here, what are we doing in terms of length? It's already pretty long track. I'm feeling like all of the drops are maybe not here. I feel like this part is too short for the amount of like power that it has. So ideally I would make it 16 bars longer, so that this section, the big lead section, has 32 bars. But then either I need to shorten the break, which to me the break sounds very nice, but it is fairly long, I would say. How long is that? It's 32, more than 32 bars, right? Math. 32. Yeah, it's very long.
Now, simulation theory
It would be 48 bars.
is the idea that we are living in a simulation. That the world that we live in is not the real world. But
I cannot shorten this one
that somehow we are
because of the vocal. I don't want to short this one because that means that I need to remake a lot of the atmospheres. potentially I could take away the pre-drop, which would mean different sounds in here, because the drop relies on the pre-drop. Twice as long as it should be. Yeah, I can see for like people who don't like progressive psytrance, it's way too long, right? They might go for like 16 bars, something like that. Generally in progressive, it's a little bit more common to have longer breaks. Here also we're going to add more synths, stuff like that. I like this part too, the asset line really works well. Although it does need a bit more power. This synth here feels fairly random, so I'm going to mark that. I'm not using it anywhere else. Maybe it's just too loud for my liking. I have some other marked synths as well, which I'm probably going to delete since they're all deactive. Keeping the project clean a little bit. And then it's just kick and bass, so I'll not bore you with that. I've learned that, by the way, for anybody using Ableton, never delete clips, always zero them, because that will keep the automation intact. If you hit delete, it will also delete the automation. There's a bunch of different things about Ableton that I don't like in the way that they handle automation when you're in automation mode. For me, automation mode is like the default mode. I don't like to work in like clip mode like this and switch back and forth. My default mode is like this, but with the keyboard on, so that I can like play synths. Right? That's kind of like the way I default use Ableton, but there's a bunch of problems with that. One being that if you move or delete certain things, it always moves the automation as well. And I don't know if there's an easy way to like move or delete something without it affecting the automation in automation mode. I believe there is in like clip mode if you like hold shift or something, but even then the default way, I think it still removes automation. So yeah, that's why I don't delete things anymore. That's why you see all of the like disabled tracks here as well. It also saves you like the idea that you had. I do want to do something with this. I do like the sound that we're getting here. Asset 25, hello. This is just tied to yeah, this is just tied to two different envelopes. Kind of cool sound, kind of crazy. Maybe in terms of reverb, it's a little bit too much here. I want to check the release timing on this. Yeah, so that's a pretty long release time, which means that it's going to just finish the envelope however long the note is. That's not what I want. Psychedelic music, yes indeed, that's what we do. What I'm going to do here is, let's delete this. Sorry, I want to go back to this state. Now this shouldn't have reverted this, right? 12 and yeah, like that, that's what we wanted. I can duplicate this and then just assign all of the envelope things to a macro and then make a bit more of a complex shape. Now I can delete things, because what I'm going to do now is just delete all of this and then run the processing through the group. So these are going to go to 0 dB. We don't want to change the input volume of the processing, so we raise the volume of the individual tracks. We then put the processing on the group, and then we set group level. Where are you guys from? My friend who is also producers opening your channel. I'm following you. Thanks for the videos. No worries. Thank you. Thank you for following. I'm currently living in Italy, but I am from the Netherlands. I think most people here are from Europe because of like the timing and stuff, with like when I do streams and uploads. Also, Psytrance is I mean, in Brazil it's also big, right? I've seen a bunch of stuff coming from Brazil as well. Okay, so we'll leave that. What if I just set envelope 2 to a macro? And then macro here. Is it louder? Can go down a bit more. Merlin, how are you doing? I'm temporarily going to turn these off. We kind of have a main synth here that really doesn't have enough power, I would say. Maybe a bit more. Cape Town is also U2SSI. Yeah, Israel as well. It's kind of a random collection of countries, because from what I know about Psytrance, it started in India. Obviously, there's a lot of Indian like influences still in there. But Psytrance, as far as I understand, is an extension of Goa music, Goa trance music from like the 70s. But now it's South Africa. I've seen a lot of activity in like Brazil. Israel, of course, it's huge there. A lot of artists from Israel. And then within Europe, the biggest countries are Switzerland and Hungary. There's a lot in Mexico as well. Yeah, it's a bit of a random, like, if you look at it on a map, you wouldn't say that it like gradually spread across the world. It's like when the internet came, or maybe even before that, when the internet came like globally, there was like just like a few countries in which it sticked, like Psytrance, and a whole bunch of countries where it didn't. It's still kind of an underground music. Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, ever since the Armin van Buuren and Vini Vici days and like Timmy Trumpet, they really brought it into the mainstream and got like millions and millions of views with a kind of psytrance that was like very commercialized, I guess it became more accepted in general. But if you still look at where it like catches on, to me it's like a random collection of countries. When I was in Budapest, there was a whole street full of clubs where one club was like exclusively psytrance, and the other clubs were like techno on one day, house on the other day, and then psytrance evenings as well. So it was a very strange experience, because in Italy it's not really here. There's a bit in the north, like around Milan, but if you go into the mountains, into the Alps, obviously there's Switzerland, so we have the influences from Switzerland, where from what I know, psytrance is actually pretty big. Yeah, it's also in the Netherlands. Like, there's a big festival in the Netherlands, but to be honest, I've not really heard about a lot of like smaller raves there. Probably they exist, but I just haven't heard of it. Surely when electronic music came out, it became a thing worldwide. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it's always like everywhere. There's people in Australia that I know that listen to psytrance and play psytrance, but not to the extent that they host raves and festivals like they do in... For me, what comes up to me is like Switzerland, because half of the things that you see on like the psytrance subreddit and online are raves specifically in Switzerland. Don't you live in the Netherlands? No, I live in Italy, northern Italy. Cremona is the place called. I wanted to make this a bit quieter, didn't I? Am I doing a lot of... Yeah, there's an OTT on there, so that's going to be a lot louder. I can just make it quieter here. The Land of Albert Hoffman. That usually helps, yeah. Okay, so this needs a little bit of extra groove here towards the end. So I'm just going to like fill in the 16 notes that are missing, I guess. Maybe even here. Am I sidechaining this so much somewhere? No, right? I'm sidechaining it with like the velocity. Maybe that's a bit too much. The velocity sidechain that I'm doing. So I can guess just take these up a little bit. I do want to still include this part here, the little stutter of this effect, but not on the variation that we have there. So maybe here. what if every other, or at the start of each beat we also have like this? Little variation there. I just want this to be less boring. Okay, so this kind of glitchy effect, I guess I can have that go up. Testing how different styles will be for it in different regions. South Africa is progressive and dark, forest is used, these two. Russia, Hungary. I mean, when I went to the Psytrance club in Hungary, one time it was a different club that was Asterix playing. That's pretty normal. That's pretty basic. But the other time was Captain Hook in one room, and then the two other rooms this was in the Psytrance only club. And the other two rooms both played high tech. One was like 160, 170 BPM, and then the other one was like 200 plus BPM, which was a lot of fun. But it's kind of strange. They have Captain Hook, and then immediately to the kind of, I would say, the most aggressive kind of Psytrance. Well, maybe not the most aggressive, but definitely the like fastest. It's a nice big contrast. I'm missing a thing here, and I can make these a bit bigger, maybe. That's the kind of groove that I'm looking for. What we can do is maybe have this here towards the end, and then just not have this variation here. So that would mean turning all of these off, just looking like here what it would look like. Something like this. It's close enough, I would say. Just a little pause in the action. In terms of the sound, I don't really like it. It doesn't really fit with the other one. Let's try again. I already have a macro setup. That's nice. I've been making high tech actually. The last stream that I did, if I'm doing a break today, I'll let you guys hear it. The track that I made on the last stream, the one for the challenge, I finished it. It's now 8 minutes long. I finished it the same day because I just felt very, very creative, and I decided, okay, I'll try to turn this into like a full track or something like that. Obviously, high tech is not something that I normally do, but it was a very interesting production, and one of the things that I learned is this trick here. What I'm doing here is I just open up a tone from the tones pack, and then I put on a bandpass with like a macro and then a 0 square for the aggressive distortion. You get that to like 50%, something like that, and this always will sound good if you're looking for a very simple high-tech sound. Especially if you like keep it in the nice high ends. And then for high-tech synths, I believe you want to always play the 16 notes because it has that high speed kind of feeling to it. Here with these long note lengths, it sounds almost like one note. Let's add another tone to this. Nice. I do like the variation that we have now. Want to check if there's a bit of extra texture that we can add. I have a question for you. Shoot away. That's what I'm here for. Let's take a little bit of an asymmetrical distortion to get some nice lower frequencies. I'm also going to slightly bump these up. I guess this one could provide more of the that area. When do you find reverbs and delays are best used in parallel as opposed to series? I never use them in parallel. Well, wait. If you mean like having two chains and then one going through delay and one for reverb and then summing back together, I would never do that. I would always have my reverb after my delay. Right, so it's always the reverb and delay for me are always in series. Just like in the chain itself, technically they are in parallel with the dry signal, and obviously that's normally done through the dry wet here. What I sometimes do is I make my own dry wet chain. I actually have a preset for that. That should be the default actually, but I might have taken that away. Yeah, dry wet. What this allows you to do is it just allows you to affect the delay with other things or the reverb with other things. So if you're looking for something like a gated reverb or a delay where the delay tail has some modulation on it, something like a chorus or another delay, like a slap delay is often common to use on your main delay. In those situations you would have have a parallel rack like this, right? But for me, it's always delay, then reverb, and they're always like in series, but parallel with the dry. Obviously, because you're setting a dry wet. I hope that answers your question. If it comes to like really having them parallel one next to the other in terms of reverbs and delay, I would never do that. The essence for me, why I would do it like this is because what I want my delay and reverb to do is create an ambience. And the delay, what it does, it just extends the sound because of the way that the delay kind of replays the sound. And then the real ambience comes from a reverb, which just washes it out. Sometimes it doesn't work though, sometimes you just want a delay. In that case, you're not really going for an ambience, but just more for like the lengthening of the sound. If I have a sound like, maybe like this one, yeah. I don't necessarily want this sound to sound ambient. I just want it to be extended so that it fills the gap from here up until the next point where I might play a synth or like in this case atmospheres or whatever. Yeah, so the atmospheres take over here. So the delay extends the signal and then the reverb washes it out. And parallel being for send, for example. Okay, that's a nice discussion. I am a little bit of a strange producer in that sense, in that I never use return tracks. You can see if I hit the return track button, it does nothing. The reason for that is if I want the capability of like return track where you have the delay separate from everything else, in that case I would do it for the individual channel. The real benefit of the return track is just saving CPU cycles, right? Because you send everything to one delay and it gets summed before it goes into the delay, and then it's just one delay doing all of the processing. Whereas for me, on each of these channels we can probably find a delay, right? There's one, there's one, there's one here. Okay, it's not here, but there's one, probably in individual channels in here. You get the point, right? There's a lot of different delays. For me, I want each delay to be tailored specifically to the sound. For example, this one, this sound here, probably has a very long delay on it. It's this big plug sound, something like that. And I really want this to ring out. Part of it is because this sound sits in the fill. And usually for me the structure works like this, that throughout the drop I like to have longer delay tails here and here at the halfway points, and then shorter ones to fill up like this space maybe and that space, depending on the complexity that I'm looking for in the drop. You can also see it with like how I space out my main elements. There's more main elements around this area and around like the back half here than there is here. This is basically just empty, so that I have a space for the delay tail to go out. If you're doing like sends, then you're limited in the delay that you put on the send, right? If that delay doesn't do the delay sound that you want it to do, then you still need to go back and go into the individual channel and maybe use an insert. The point for me is that, for me, I want to craft every delay specifically for the sound. So if I were to use return tracks, I would just end up with the same amount of return tracks that I would have, just sounds that I put a delay on as an insert. So for me, it just makes sense to put everything as an insert. Unless what I want to do is modify the delay itself. In that case, either, as I said, I use the dry wet one, or what I can do is I can take an audio track right here and then take input from whatever sound that I want, right? So if I were to go here, I could potentially put the delay on here and then have this as an auxiliary track. This also acts like a return track, but only for one track, because you cannot send multiple tracks to it. Like not in a convenient way. You would need to make an individual audio track for each one of the tracks that you want to get it from, and then group them and then affect the group. It's a bit of a mess, I wouldn't do it, but you could technically get the functionality of that. Yeah, so for me, return tracks just don't work with my workflow. If they work with your workflow, if you're the kind of person that wants to set up a delay and maybe, for example, emulate a specific room, it's often done more with reverbs than delays. If for reverb, it's common that you want the whole track to sound like it's made in a room. Not so much for psytrance, but for other genres of music, specifically like rock and recorded stuff. Every sound needs to sound like it was made in the same room, so they'll all send it to the same reverb. That's where it kind of comes from as well, the technique of sends. Wait, do you also work with Silent One? And if yes, what kind of sounds do you create with it? I don't work with Silent One. I hopped in with Serum. That's really where I started. I did have some other synths, but not. I wasn't really like heavily focused producing back when you had like Spire, Massive, Silent One. Though that was like the triplet of synths that everybody went with. When I got serious about production and I started to dive into production, it was around the time that Serum came out, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get the newest of the newest, so I just immediately went with Serum. Happy New Year! Nice to see you, Dash. I feel you with the designing the space around the sound, but isn't a sent another spatial offering which helps glue the sounds in a cohesive space that all the design sounds swim within. Yes. Yes, that's the common idea of a soundtrack, is that in that case all of the sounds work together in the same space. Happy New York. So yeah, the common idea of Ascend is that everything works in the same space. I don't necessarily want to do that, especially for delays, because as I said, I tweak my delays so that they specifically work for the sound, depending on the length that I want that delay to be. So specifically like feedbacks, for me, every sound gets their own feedback, right? There's a lot of people here tonight. 14 people, wow. Nice to see everybody here. Marcus, Marco. Is anybody else that I haven't welcomed? I don't think so. Are you also open to mix, master other projects in a live stream so we can see how you proceed through everything? Yes, I have. I have mixed on live stream. The problem with mixing on live stream is that I do mixing on speakers and then you get microphone feedback. So I need like a robust system for that. I don't like the push to talk thing because I forget to push and then I just start speaking. But I have mixed stuff on a live stream, and I did mastering on stuff, my stuff on live stream as well. Everything for the album. I think I mixed like 3 tracks on stream. Can quickly check. I did the mastering session for the album, mastering 10 tracks in one session, mixing the final track, mixing another one. Yeah, I did like 2-3 mixing streams as well. Full mixing session. Yeah. Hello, Justin. Just wanted to say your new album is so good. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate everybody listening to the album. There's so many nice comments I've been getting for the album, not just on like you know, the normal comments that you get, but also people that I don't recognize from the channel that like it, which is really nice. I appreciate how you've opened my mind. Thank you. I like that I'm able to open people's minds with regards to like production and stuff like that. Does everyone know the OTT clipper trick? OTT clipper trick. You mean like this, where you go OTT into some kind of clipping? Or do you specifically mean clipping with OTT? This, right? This is pretty common. On the master. Ooh, I wouldn't put an OTT on the master, to be honest. If that's what you're looking for, then maybe, but for mastering compression, the OTT is, in my opinion, way too strong. This is, what I do is I put it on individual tracks to really get the full volume that I want out of it, but I wouldn't put it on the master. On the master, usually what you want to do in terms of compression is, and I did this in the mastering stream as well, you want very subtle compression, followed by very subtle clipping, followed by very subtle limiting, and each of the stages kind of adds the gain that you want to achieve and adds the loudness that you want to achieve, right? I'm not going to master here because there's no issue here. Album's super clean, I can rehear your style without using sense. It's an interesting approach. Yes, actually the idea for me using not the sense but the trick that I showed with like the dry wet and then affecting individual delay sounds, or the delay sound specifically for the sound. The first track, The Awakening, really has a lot of that, and the reason for that is when I went to the studio last year, I hope that I'm getting back. Yeah, I should be back. I wouldn't want it on my, as I was saying, I wouldn't want any multiband effect on my master because of the phasing, right? If you're going to do a multiband effect on your master specifically, and you want to keep your interharmonic phasing intact, what you would want to do is linear phase. Now, linear phase in multiband is special in that if you set it to linear phase, you don't actually get the negative effects of pre-ringing, because what happens is that the low-pass filter is going to introduce some pre-ringing, and then the high-pass filter is going to introduce some pre-ringing. A crossover filter are like two filters locked in each other, right? So those two pre-ringings are actually the same pre-ringing, but 180 degrees flipped, so they actually cancel out. So what I would recommend, if you want to do like an OTT kind of sound, and you want to like mix it in even, especially if you want to mix it in and not want it 100%, is to recreate the OTT in here, in like M Dynamics MB or whatever FabFilter does, linear phase, whatever compressor that you have that does linear phase. Because especially for psytrance, what's really important is having control over the phase between harmonics, like what we are doing in the bassline, right? And making sure that the kick and the bass, the phase is all nice and stuff like that. If you put an OTT on it, it says a preset called No TT. Okay, we can check that out if that's what you would want to use then. So you'd say you would work with FabFilter then Klipper. Not specifically FabFilter, anything, as I said, if you want the OTT feeling still in your masters. Everybody has their own mastering, way of mastering. Maybe it works for you because you have found the exact workflow in your production that does make it sound good, right? And I just don't know that. If we go in like mixing tools, I'm assuming that's here. Factory, search, no TT. Nothing found. In multipass. No TT. Yeah, so this would be an OTT thing here, and then I assume somewhere you can set it to linear phase. It's linear phase by default. Okay, perfect. Yeah, then I would use this. This would be the linear phase equivalent of like an OTT. And you kind of have the same controls, right? As well. So yeah, I would use this. The core idea of very loud mastering is, one, you do it in the mix. You want to aim for a waveform that kind of looks like this, where it's very clear, okay, this is drop, this is a little bit louder drop, and then when it's the break, it goes significantly down. And then what you can do is you can do a little bit of compression to get rid of like the main bumps. Obviously this isn't mixed, so it's not like fully ready. There's some transient in here that I would definitely want to get rid of before I go into the whole stage. But you gradually chip away at the highest peaks so that you get that optimal loudness. The core idea is that your mix needs to be very balanced in terms of, okay, you have your intro, which is at the low volume, then you have your drop and it just shoots up in volume. So you get that extra loudness that you want in your drop as opposed to the rest of the track. You don't want the track, for example, to like look like this, right? You don't want your intro to all have the same volume as your drop, the same volume as your breakdown, stuff like that. You all want it to be already pre-balanced before you go into mastering, and then it's just a matter of getting everything loud enough that the drop is at its loudest point without the intro and all of the other elements also be very, very loud. Still wouldn't put it on the master. Well, what Klaus says might be interesting is if you want just that little bit of parallel compression, if this is the way that you work in terms of like adding 5 or 10% of very extreme compression, then that might work for your workflow. I've never found the need for it, but I wouldn't be like against it. Maybe if I do at some point run into a track that just needs a lot of aggressive kind of pushing, but very much in the background, then that might work. That's kind of, it's hard to describe parallel compression either way. But if I were to put it on there, I would say, yeah, maximum 10%, probably just 5, something like that. I never put the compressor on the master, only an EQ and a saturator. From Rob Acid, it was generally only to capture the transients. The genre was techno. Okay, well, in techno, you don't really worry about the phase of your low end, whereas in psytrance, what separates, for me at least, the very first thing to look at if a track feels professional is how do they control the phase of their low end. And what a filter will do, as when it's not linear phase, a crossover filter will just mess with that phase relationship. Yeah, it's a common trick to just level down and then have your drop. I think maybe even some parts in here. Yeah, it just goes down in level. In this case I have one little blip before that and then the drop comes in. That results in the power that you get from the drop because of the impact. Obviously Tristan does it better than me, but either way, it's the same thing. I thought I was doing something. I like talking, but I don't get a lot of work done this way. One day I'll do it better. Yeah, well, what's better in music? Okay, so this sound doesn't work for me. I do want something with a bit of movement in here, but I'm going to significantly reduce the power here. Let's see how this sounds. Okay, then in this case I also don't want these sounds here. Like that. It's something completely different, but I can't figure it out. Still, I think it's so simple. What, the OTT stuff? Well, yeah, it's phase, because phase isn't intuitive. There's nothing that you learn about filters that even remotely hints to phase in the first years of like sound design and just music production in general. Wait. I think I understood that wrong. Plug mirror sound. Streaming when you want to actually work doesn't always work. Well, I do it for entertainment. It's not that I'm trying to sit down and get as much work done as possible. I wouldn't stream if I wanted to do that, because I do know that you guys want to ask me questions and have a conversation, and that's really what streaming is all about, right? At the end of the day, it's a good way to just interact with your community and get a few questions out of the way, stuff like that. I would like to know what spectrum of sounds means with plug mirror sound. Also, a question that I have for you guys. Is it annoying that the chat now covers my face? Does that feel strange? Because I look at it now, and sometimes my chat is just completely empty and then you just see my face as normal. But I need a place to put it somewhere so that people who watch back the stream can see the chat, because the chat in YouTube isn't always there. Like I think after a week or something like that, it just gets deleted. So I need to find a better spot, but there's no other place that I can put it that it doesn't cover something important in the software. Unless I like tuck it down below here and then it just becomes unreadable and unnecessary. So this is the only place that I could put it. Either way, spectrum of sounds, plug mirror sound. If you can just put 4 lines, maybe not more. Yeah, that could be. I could maybe limit it to. I can't really show. Yeah, but have it just under my face. Bottom right. Yeah, that here for now it works, but if I go to a different chain, right, if I'm sitting here editing stuff right here, then it's going to be annoying. I just need to learn that anytime I want to edit something in my chain, I just don't do it on the right. I guess that could work. YouTube only removes live chat if you edit the stream after the fact. Sometimes it takes 24 hours to show also. That might be it. Well, either way, it's just nice to have it. Sorry for confusing with plug mirror sound. I think it censors my examples, or I don't know. Yeah, you can post links. It doesn't allow messages with links in there. Unless they come from me, obviously, or my Stream Elements thing. Yeah, I could put it on here. I've tried that. I've actually tried putting it on here, but then it just shows you like 1 or 2 messages. If you type like a paragraph or like a long question, it doesn't even show the whole question because it doesn't have enough space. Or I need to make it so small that it's hard to read. Right? I would make it the size of what the text is in there now, which I find hard to read, and I'm watching it full screen on my 27-inch monitor. So that wouldn't be the best option. If you want to send me links, Spectrum, you can do so in my Discord. I now have commands, by the way, for the Discord. If you're not in my Discord already, !Discord, you get an invite link and you can join. And then there should be a channel called Stream Stuff. I can open it up here. Stream Stuff. If you want to put it in there, upper right corner or upper left corner. Yeah, I guess I could do that. This would be the either here or here. If I'm like browsing samples or going between spaces here, that might not be the best thing. Do we really need to see the browser? Not necessarily. I think it's maybe interesting to see how I've lined out things and have things organized, maybe. But then, yeah, obviously the most important part is this and this area. And whatever is happening in like the mixer and stuff like that. So that definitely rules out like 80% of the screen. I would say that maybe this area is more important than whatever is happening up here and here. The annoying thing is that here you run into the chance that when I'm quickly want to edit something that I don't like scroll up and start editing it like this, because normally I do like to have the things that I'm looking at in the middle of the screen. Is the chat visible for you as well, or is it only visible for us in the moment? It's only visible for you. What I do want to do is maybe have it so that, and I would probably need to write the software for this, block off the area where my camera is and then also where my chat is with like an overlay for myself, so that for me I don't accidentally put things there. I also need to worry about things like if I open up a synth, right? Most of my synths open up like here or here. I don't want the chat to be on top of the synth as well. I don't really have things on the left side because of the way that my camera is set up. I sit kind of a little bit more to the left of my screen than to the right. Bro, I just saw your CPU usage amount. What the fuck are your specs, mate? Want the tower again. Yeah, my specs are, since the upgrade that I did, I have never run into CPU issues. So I posted a link in Discord now. Let's have a look. It's 150 to 157. Why Psytrance has become shit.
Are 10 reasons why Psytrance has become shit. Number 4.
Okay, so here there's the sound design, which should be fairly simple. One day you will have an assistant to help you with this kind of thing. Yes, yes. That's what I'm hoping for. Let's see. This should just be like a fairly simple plug. Or are you more interested in the effect itself? Or the like delay things that are on there? How it delays more and more? Because I think the plugs should be fairly easy. Obviously if you want exact textures and stuff like that. I think this is the key, right? A sharp. It has a bit of both, maybe. And then I was thinking a down sample on there, which is tied to the modulation as well. Something like this. Yes, more the delay effect. Okay, so the delay effect, this is interesting because this is what we talked about before, where you want to have the parallel delay. So you would add a dry wet rack. I've made, I think, a video on this, but also it should be fairly easy to set this up. The way that this works in Ableton is it works with the chain selector, which is, where is it? Chain, here, this thing. So this macro just sets the chain selector and that morphs between this channel and this channel. So this is your dry wet now, right? Then what you want to do, let's quickly move to an area where I have enough space so I can actually play it. Okay. I think it was like a beat. Yeah. Okay, then you want to, on the wet channel, you want to set a fully wet delay. So that is fully wet. This, I think, was stereo and it was unlinked. No, not unlinked, unsynced. So you set the time in milliseconds. And then the first thing is that the feedback goes up. You don't want a filter. We want this. Yeah. Okay, so the automation that you do is you do something like this. Maybe even less still. We'll slightly up the dry wet to get that effect. And then towards the second half, the effect that you hear of it pitching up is having it just go down in millisecond timing, and then making sure that whatever you're using, it's repitching. So with the echo, you have to make sure that repitch is on. If you like to use the delay instead of the echo, then you want to set repitch mode. Any other delay will also works. But yeah, this is the way that you would do that. That gives you that pitching up effect. And maybe the more that you do it, the more pitching up that you get. If you want more of a pitching up effect, then you can also just pitch up everything through a pitch shifter. Where are my pitch shifters? Is it an other pitch shifter? There we are. Pitch shifter or frequency shifter for a slightly different vibe. But then you can like up this as well. Obviously this is now acting on the dry and wet because it's outside of the dry wet rack. If I put it on here, you get more of a pitch shifting effect on the delay, but not on the original one. This is maybe not what you're after. It's probably more like this. But obviously like playing with this you get the kind of textures that you want. But it's a combination of increasing the feedback on the delay and then turning down the millisecond timing, and in general starting off with a very small millisecond timing to begin with. That's how you get effects like these. The Wi-Fi on the train sucks so bad. Yeah, at least you guys have Wi-Fi. They don't even have that here in Italy. We do get power. Why not use the dry wet on the effect? Well, this is, as I said, especially with the pitch shifter. Sorry, I already deleted everything. With the pitch shifter, if you want to do the pitch shifter only on the dry wet rack. Let me see if I can get the pitch shifter back. Then, in this case, what you would have is that you always want to affect only the wet sound. Shots fired. I don't have an Italian accent. No, because I'm Dutch. So, that's the reason. But I do live in Italy. Either way, the reason why we do it on an effect like this is because if you want a complex delay effect, usually there's going to be some kind of effect behind it that you want to do on here. So that's the reason why we want to... If you were to set this dry wet like this, you can never affect only the wet signal of that delay, right? So you would need to set a dry wet before... You essentially want a dry wet of these two effects together and not just the individual echo effect. Ma sai parlare l'italiano? Sì, sì. Lo so parlare bellissimo. Benissimo. Makes instant error. Nice. So if you have more effects, yes. If you want maybe a chorus on just the wet part of your delay, or a slap delay on the wet part of your delay, all those kind of things, or some saturation. If I wanted this saturation to only affect the wet signal of my delay, then you would kind of combine them together as a single effect and then just give that single effect a dry wet, right? That's kind of the idea behind it. That's also how, for example, this reverb is implemented, I think. I never use it, but I imagine that this is a reverb that only acts on the wet signal. We can actually probably test that if we find a delay that's actually on. Yeah, if I go in here to this sound. You can hear that the reverb only affects the delay part of the sound. So how it's implemented is that there's a delay circuit and then a reverb circuit, and then there's a dry wet for both of those circuits combined. It's a rabbit hole within a rabbit hole of music production. Exactly. Like Bitwig. I'm sorry. Bitwig. Ableton Gang, yes. Okay. I want to try to get this transition to be better, because it goes from very aggressive synth into almost like fairy tale kind of pad sounds, right? This stuff, I think. Maybe this one? Yeah. It goes from hard synth into this kind of very bright, sparkly kind of pad, and I don't think that that's a good combination, right? It's very rough. What I'll try to do is turn this off first of all. We have some background choir stuff, which I do like. What I'm going to do is transgate this. Gate lab. I just want normal. I should use this plugin more because it's very, very good. Actually, I can just use this and then transgate it like this. I also want mono. And then I think it's every other one that you have to do. That should make sense. Sorry for putting you out of your project. As I said before, if I wanted to be productive on my live stream, or if I wanted to be productive while producing, I wouldn't do live streaming. So this is the goal. To just sit here and chill, try to make some music, but mainly have a conversation. Okay, so that already makes it a little bit more, like it moves it a little bit more. I don't think I want it anywhere else, but it doesn't seem to be anywhere else, so that's not a problem. I'm also thinking of dividing up the structure like this to aid the transition between the vocal part and the stuff that I'm doing with this synth here. Because this is really where this synth comes in. And he plans on doing more atmosphere sample packs. Not necessarily. In terms of products, I'm now working on some wavetable stuff, which you'll also find interesting. probably, since you're the wavetable guy around here. I have some wavetable stuff. I've just recently put out the vocal pack from the album, all of the vocals from the album. If you haven't seen that yet, there should be a video online for that, and all of the remix packs for all of the tracks for the album. So if you want to remix a track from the album, you can buy the remix pack, and that essentially gives you all of the sounds, like every single thing that's in there. So the tracks that I used to like mix the album, right? And then it also gives you a license. So I'm working on some sample pack. I'll actually show you that in a little bit, because I have an idea for synth that we can use this technique in. But if I go my samples, here I have probably the vocal pack somewhere. Shouldn't it? Signature Psytrance vocals. Yeah, we can quickly look through. This one is a bit smaller. These are all of the things that I had commissioned for the album, and I just put them in there. It's, I believe, almost 350, maybe slightly more, 360 maybe. But a whole bunch of different vocal lines that you can just throw in your track. How did I get that lead to drop like that? Okay, so the the thing that I did here is I played this part an octave higher than this part, and then pitch bent it down an octave. I think. Or is that in the sample? Or in the here, yeah. Yeah, pitch bend, right? So this is just pitch bending down, and then it's an octave. So this sound is just playing an octave higher than this one. That's why it's separated. Can't get enough of wavetable stuff. Okay, I'll show you a cool technique. I actually want a synth sound to go in here, so that the delay kind of fades in here. Right, so I'll do like this. I'll put down my note and go to the sub bass register. Do you remember the video that I did on Designer FM, where the goal of Designer FM is that you have your source sound, let's say a sine wave, and then you design the wavetable that is modulating this, right? So you just FM from B all the way up, and then you can actually design the like wavetable that you want to use here. So let's say that I do something like this, and then like this. What you probably want to do instead of straight lines is some kind of remap, so that it slightly bends what is going on. I could, for example, go for something like this, and that just bends it up. This already should give us a fairly interesting tone, probably. And then depending obviously on the remap that you do, you get different tones. What I'm working on is a pack of wavetables for this, right? So that you can just open up the wavetable. If I go in here, Designer Carrier, you can just open up a modulator and it will just work. Maybe you want a different one, modulator 2 here. Something like that. And there's a whole science between which works well and what doesn't work well. Obviously, you wouldn't use a wavetable that looks like this as a normal wavetable, because it's like very DC offset, right? So the goal of these wavetables is just to do it like this. Another thing that I found is that if you go in basic shapes here and you set the saw wave, and then you go quantize in here, you can get some cool tones out of this as well. And obviously we don't. Something like this. If you want to turn this into like your classic Psytrance synth, you go like that, and then you put your bandpass on there. The basic stuff. I have a tutorial coming out with a sound that uses this technique as well. I do a similar way, but I will resample an octave 4 from oscillator A in B, then I use the remap. And then draw interesting shapes. Yeah. Well, the goal for me, the goal, obviously there's a million wavetable packs already out there. I want specifically to make a wavetable pack that just does this, right? That just gives you the starting, the modulator for whatever other sound that you already have. Remove all modulators. So this is a modulator. Here's a different one. Yeah, so this is not specifically the kind of wavetable pack that you just, what you do, where you just have the wavetable and you like drop it in, like any normal wavetable. Because for me, what I like to do in terms of products is I always want to do something slightly different than what other people are doing. So for example, the atmosphere pack, not many people are making a pack of so many atmospheres like I did. If you go through it, it's like very big, right? The tons of atmospheres in 5 different keys. This took me a long time to make. I'm doing the same thing with a pack of risers and downlifters that I'm working on. This is filler material, that's something else. Transition material. Yeah, so I have 4 different BPMs, and obviously not all of these are done. But I'm working on a whole bunch of different risers. This one is probably finished. So this is what the folder is going to look like. Not many people are doing this, because the standard thing that you'll hear is, okay, kicks for kick 2, presets for Serum. And I do have some presets for Serum and stuff like that, but I also want to do stuff that nobody else does. Because then obviously your products become more interesting. If you're doing what everybody else does, then you're not really selling. Okay, let's go back to basic shapes here. Let's remove the modulator here and let's go for a macro. Mute has some cool tips on wavetables. He resynthesizes within Vital. Yeah, I know. The trick that he did with the sine wave is in here. I have one of his tables. I can show it in here. I think at least I got this wavetable from Mute Productions. Maybe this is... It's a little bit hard to remember which tutorial you followed to get a specific like sound or wavetable. Vital Experiment. He got something like this, which is kind of like a bandpass sweep almost. Here. I think I got that from Mute Productions. This is very cool stuff, yeah. Let's see how that works with, if I put it in the group here. That's just me being lazy, by the way. Not wanting to do all of the processing for each individual synth. I do like how it sounds. The additive bandpass thing, you can do that in Vital. Yes, I made it in Vital and then exported it for use in Serum. Because I think he does that in the tutorial as well. He ends up making the actual wavetable in Vital and then the sound in Serum. Something like that at least. Serum is more exact. I think the reason why people think that is because of the smoothing that Vital applies to their LFO, which I think is a dumb idea to have on by default. I like the idea from the standpoint of having the ability to smooth your wavetable. I just saw that, yeah. For me, it shouldn't be on by default, and that's what I think gives you the impression that Vital is a little bit less like exact when it comes into like drawing curves and stuff like that. But if you just turn the smoothing down, then there shouldn't be a big difference, I think. This thing does not have, or does, but the filter is behind it. I actually don't want it here now that I have this sound there. This one goes a little bit lower. Silent? Question mark? Serum feels very metallic. 100%. Serum is, if you mean by exact, that it gives you the most precise kind of sound, I do feel like Vital has that same kind of thing that Silent has, where they add a little bit of coloring to the sound, and Serum just doesn't do that. Unless you tell it to, obviously. Like if you put a soft clipper on it as your distortion effect, then it will obviously color the sound. But I feel like Vital and Silent do it on default. I just opened up everything, I don't want that. I need to check here. I might have a bit of a dilemma. What I want to do is I want the transition between this sound and this sound to just be better. Because right now, if I don't do that, what I need to do is have the impact here to mask the transition, because there is a little bit of a click between these two sounds. The problem is, right now, here, this sound just kind of comes in, right? After the vocal plays and after the pad plays. I already removed the kick and bass, so that's already kind of like a point where it switches up. But here you can just hear it coming in and it doesn't really fit. So I want this big impact kind of explosion kind of sound that's here. And whatever this is as well. I want that all to stop here. So really this is the space of the transition, which is just this sound. Problem being is, with the sound the way that I designed it, there is a little click in there. Which I don't know if I can remove that. First, let's see. I'm like 99% certain that it's just going to be noticeable if we play it in the mix with all of the impacts like right here. And I don't want to have an impact here and then also here. That doesn't really make sense to me, like musically speaking. Yeah, that's a good idea, Merlin. I think the reason why I didn't do that is because originally it was just this sound, and then I decided, okay, I want to actually fade into that sound, so I duplicated the track. But what you're saying, what we could what I could just do is just have it like this then. Because I don't want it here then either. I really wanted to just come in here and just play this whole part here. So I can just extend this node to here. And that would get rid of the clicks. Okay, now we have the same problem we had before, which is the pitch shift doesn't change because Ableton. I don't know. Ableton hates this kind of stuff if you use this pitch shift or pitch changer. I think this should be fixed by automating it, but seeing as I didn't use this, there might be a problem with this. Yeah, this has the, I think, same kind of issue in that it only really applies if you set it up already. Let's get this to 0.5 here. If I do maybe like this. Yeah, you can see it still, even though I automated it to be up, it goes back down. Maybe there's some kind of MIDI learning that I need to disable here. Although I cannot right click it. I mean, have two notes on the clip. That could also work, but then I would need to set the time properly for it to do the pitch bend that I wanted to do of exactly 2 bars. So obviously that would probably just work, right? So that would be the next best thing. We would have a note right here, and then we would start the pitch bend right here. But now I need to calculate the length of this time exactly. To me that says 3.3 seconds, I think. So mono legato and then 3.3 seconds was the timing, I think. 3.31 if you want to be exact. I don't know if it needs to be that exact. 3.31. Okay. You can see the duration. If I hover away from it, you can't see it anymore, but it says down below duration. Ah, wait. Now it's 3.1 seconds. That's why. Sorry. There's still... Okay, so there's no more automation on this apart from that macro. We can delete this. There might be an effect on here that turns on. Holding Alt. It doesn't look like it. Why then does this still have a click in there? It shouldn't click, it should just transition. That freeform trick was sick. Can this be done to any sound? Yes. Yes, it can be done to... I don't know if it's gonna sound good, but you can definitely try it. Could be an OTT issue. It's still there. It does. can still hear the click even if the modulation doesn't change. So it's definitely not a modulation thing. Oh yeah, it always does that. I'm going to turn these things back on because they exaggerate the problem. Makes no sense. I think it's the sharp filter curve. It's, if I keep this higher, right? It's still there. Oh. I just want to keep this up because the, actually I lost the, yeah, this is the modulation that we want. So I'm keeping this up here. Actually, if you do that and let it go, it removes the curve. That's annoying. Have a little attack on the amp envelope. But it's legato, it shouldn't matter. If it's legato, it should just continue the envelope as if it's still the same note, right? That's the point of legato. Right, you can still hear it. Yeah, it's... What if, instead of trying to have the pitch bend go down an octave or go up an octave and then sweep it down here, we instead use negative pitch bend and go down with automation, like so. Because then it's just one note, then it yeah, now it's smooth. It's the face of one of the oscillators then. Yeah, I don't know why it is, because in theory it should just continue the note. When legato is on, it should just say, okay, this is the same note and I'm just going to pitch bend down. But this definitely works. So now we have it. I don't think I want to make any changes to this one specific. So I'm thinking of just recording this, so that I'm sure that it's not going to do it again, and then I can just leave like this version in here as well. I should organize these projects, but this 200 tracks, I don't want to name all of them. I recently went through that big project, the one that has like 300 tracks in it, the one with the big intro. If you know my streams, then obviously you know which track I'm talking about. I tend to play it once in a while during the pauses, during the break, which I'll be having fairly soon. And I went through that. It was 317 tracks in total that I had to name, and I named all of them. So now that project is very, very organized. I can... It's an Intel CPU? No, this is a an AMD CPU. The 5800X, I think. But now it's smooth, now it's nice. So that's it. I can just turn this off. I'll leave the group on here, because then obviously if I want to record it again, I don't have to record the delay. I can just use this as a source sound. But now we have a smooth version, and this is in audio, so now I don't have to worry about it messing up again. 3800. Yeah, so I got the 5000 version of that. Merlin, I think your idea should work, but it just didn't. Theoretically, a glide should just, if it's legato, should just be smooth. It should not trigger another note. It should just say to the existing note, okay, start pitching down, and things like phase and amp envelope should not have an effect on it. I don't know why it didn't, but we eventually did get to the sound that I wanted to. So, what I want to do after the break, I'm going to take a quick break because I want to refresh my ears. I'll play you guys the track that I worked on for that challenge that I did on the last stream, because I finished it. It's now 8 minutes long. It was like 2 minutes at the end of the challenge, 2.5 minutes, and I just sat down the evening. I finished the stream at like 8, and I sat down till 1 o'clock at night, and then I woke up and the track was just finished. So this is the track from the high-tech challenge that I did in the last stream on Monday. Well, it was not a high-tech challenge. It was a challenge for using a guitar sample, but I ended up making high-tech. Either way, I'm going to play you guys the whole track, and then we'll get back into production. I'll just take a quick break, as I always do, and I'll see you guys right after. track is on fire. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making it. Ooh, that scared me. Why did it do that? It just removed everything. I need to set up my length still. There we are. It's the kind of track that... Bassline doesn't show here. Confusing. It's the kind of track that I would probably never put out. I'm thinking of just releasing it as maybe a like a one-off kind of track, not something that I would put a lot of time in terms of like the production around it, in terms of the artwork and the music video and that kind of stuff. Either I would put it out as a single, or I'm thinking of doing like a one-off EP maybe, and then obviously I would push it back in terms of the release. And then obviously release all the things before that. What I want to do is, what I've learned from the album is that yes, an album is cool, but in terms of like output, it's really not something that you want to do, just putting out a whole album there, because it means that you just spend so much time working on the release, that all of the momentum that you build up as an artist before that. Because the last time I released a track before the album was in January, right? January last year. Which means that a whole year went by where my SoundCloud page and my Spotify page were basically doing nothing, which is technically fairly bad in terms of, you know, pushing your brand out there and pushing you out there as an artist. It's much better to just release something every month or 2 months and have people come back to your music every once in a while. That also makes it so that people go back and listen to your older stuff much more. So that's the thing that I want to do, is I want to focus more on singles and EPs and smaller projects and stuff like that. So what I'll do is once in a while I'll put out an EP, which would just be 4 or 5 tracks at once, and then I'll combine that with singles so that I can like fill up the space in between, right? This would either the high-tech track would either be a one-off single, or I could do a one-off EP of it, where I just push out a few different high-tech tracks, just for fun, because it's not really something that I do as like Projector. It's not really in my brand. I'm trying to focus on progressive theming, and that's really different from what high-tech is. Even though I try to add my theme and add my flair into it. The third option would be I would start a different project, because I do really enjoy experimenting with different types of psytrance. It might seem like when I'm producing here that I'm always doing the same thing, but behind the scenes I'm doing a whole bunch of different what would be the opposite of Projector? Injector. Extractor. Something like that would be fun. Having I could just start a second artist page and all of that kind of stuff, but then you have a lot of upkeep, I think. Or I could do that as like the side project, passion project kind of thing, where it's closely tied to me. I might like every once in a while put then something from what I do in other versions of site, or other stuff in Psytrance on the Projector side, because I have a tutorial coming up on one of the leads that I used in the track as well, stuff like that. So there would be a bit of like overlap between it, but then Projector would be the main thing, and then the side hustle would be whatever I do in high tech or dark side or whatever else I want to experiment with. Basically, I would imagine it as like a second channel, right? Kind of like how YouTubers have a second channel where they just every once in a while, like they have their main channel where they publish, I don't know, 3-4 times a month or maybe even more, and then they have a second channel where they push out any video that doesn't go on the main channel, that's not like enough quality for the main channel, right? What's good examples of that? Internet Historian, and then Incognito Mode is it like his second channel. I don't know any other examples of that. Well, also with Vsauce. Vsauce 2 and 3 were first of all second channels of the like main Vsauce channel. But I think everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say like second channel. Yeah, Luke Mum No Computer has a second channel, that kind of stuff. If I do anything other than the progressive kind of psytrance that I want Projector to be, I would just put it up on the second artist page and then just link it to Projector to still get a little bit of traffic to there. For this track, for the high-tech track, it doesn't really matter to me because that's something that I made in an evening. As I said, I started the challenge at 4 o'clock and at 1 o'clock the track was like finished as it is right now. Experimenter. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I would if I were to do that, I would come up with something clever at some point. Either that or I just release it under Projector and then it's a one-off thing and then it's cool. But I'm leaning towards just opening up like a small page. I would do a SoundCloud and YouTube channel, and other than like getting a cover art, what I'll do is I'll get like an AI artist to do the cover art and then quickly put it up there, so that anytime I do make something, it can be quick and I don't have to worry too much about it. Because I don't want it to be a hassle, right? I don't want to have the same kind of upkeep that I have for Projector, the main channel. Because the whole thing with the music video that I did, I spent a good 3 months just working on music videos for this last album. It was 2 months of work getting it ready, making the project, and there's a video coming on all of the stuff that I did. It will be very interesting. But I spent, first of all, I spent about a good week coding the tool that I needed to convert Ableton Automation Clip into After Effects keyframe data so that everything synchronizes. I can use automations as the keyframes for the animation, right? So then I can just basically write the keyframes in Ableton and you'll have like the bar structure, which is very useful because then it's all timed to the music very easily. So I spent a week coding up that tool, which I'm going to publish. I spent a good 2 to 3 weeks just making the template for the music video, and then I spent another week and a half turning the template into the music video for each individual song, and then it was another month of rendering on the new PC, that was. Because After Effects really is meant for kind of small time animations that you then render out and then import into Premiere so that it can be put into a movie or something like that. But obviously if you want your animation to be continuous for like 11 minutes, which is the length of the first song, then you have to just render out the 11-minute video. Which really, After Effects wasn't really designed for that. It's for movies and quick animations. So either for like, it's not really CGI. I have a friend who works in CGI, so he tells me all of this stuff. They don't use After Effects for CGI, they use it for touching up and stuff like that. Yeah, Adobe software is designed to be used with other Adobe software. The point is usually what you'll do is you'll make a small animation or a small thing in After Effects, then render that out and then composite everything in Premiere, because Premiere is really the editing software where your final video or movie or whatever you're animating for should be made. So for example, the little like lower thirds thing that I have in my videos where it says, oh, go follow me on my Spotify, or go check out my products, or go check out whatever it is that I want people to look into. Those things, I made those in After Effects and then just rendered them out as like little files. So they are already video files that exist, right? So you render that once and then you just render it out. Those are very small files, very short videos. I think they're like 5 seconds long, something like that. After Effects was really designed for making that small kind of stuff. So its rendering engine is not really made for rendering out very large things. CGI is what NASA does, yes. Well, yeah, no, obviously that's a joke, but I don't think CGI, because my friend, he works in like big productions, like, I don't think I can tell you, but he works on, I think, Marvel movies and that kind of stuff, obviously commercials and all kinds of projects, but he talks about how they use After Effects, and they just use it for, they import a small clip, do a little bit of the color correction and the morphing and whatever they want to do on it, but that generally they import small clips of like 5 to 10 seconds, because if you look at a movie, it's not that you have a continuous shot of 10 minutes, right, in a movie. It's all cuts, and then from one scene to a different scene. So you just import an individual scene into After Effects, do your modifications that you need to do, and then you put it back into the actual movie, which is edited in a different software. It was not meant to work on very long files. So that's the big problem here. Sometimes the Google Earth is CGI. I hope he was trolling, but I like that everybody immediately jumps on and try to convince him that the flat earth theory is not real. This sound is a bit loud here. What I think I'll do is not have display here, because it just messes up my like mid-range, lower mid-range. Where did Flat Earth even start, the trend? I think it's just left over from like religious groups, because the trend really gained traction with like the internet, obviously, right? Then it could spread to the masses, but there were like small communities, like cults, that believed in Flat Earth, and from there I think it just spread from the degenerates over at 4chan. Yeah, probably. I think if you say 4chan, you don't have to mention the degenerates. I think that's implied. Okay, so now the transition is rough. Isn't he still like a conspiracy theorist? Like, even when COVID was a thing, he would mention like how he ate like a horse tranquilizer or a horse medicine, which I always assumed just meant that he did ketamine. I could technically fix it like this, but then I don't think it will come through. There's this hollow like peak, right? This thing, which is bugging me while it's sitting on there. Yeah, also I want, now that we have this asset line in here, I'm no longer going to use the delay from there. So I might just block it out completely. But for years he perpetuated the NASA CGI flat earth stuff. I sometimes see shorts of him. I don't see specifically like flat earth stuff, but more the ancient civilization theories of like how ancient civilizations were much more advanced than even we are now. And I just think like if they were so advanced and stuff like that, like if you truly believe that, then you should be able to just come up with the evidence. And all I ever see him and his guests do is like speculate on how those civilizations and the ancients and the Mayas and whatever, how they used to work. But if they were so advanced as we would like to believe, and Atlantis and all of that stuff, we would have found it by now. He said podcast billions of years ago. I always go back to the clip of him. I know it's like a mashup, but there's this almost magical video of Mighty Cyrus on his podcast talking about some very, very deep stuff about life, and then it's just a clip edited of Joe Rogan imitating like an animal or an ape, and he just screams at her. I'll find it. It's amazing. Joe Rogan, Mighty Cyrus, weird noise. Here we are. This is beautiful.
I'd be trying to prove that I'm not crazy when I knew I wasn't crazy.
This is his whole show. This is a perfect description of the Joe Rogan podcast. Hey Steels. Hello Greedo. Yeah, to me it's the whole thing with Joe Rogan is all of the things that he is saying about the ancient stuff, and if that flat earth thing, I've never heard him say anything about flat earth, but I don't really watch him. But if that's true, like it's all so debunkable, right? Okay. I'm not feeling... I want this sound to transition in nicer than it just coming in. Because it feels like a too sharp of a transition right now. Maybe not. Maybe it's a cool thing to do, and then putting this here. Isn't there just a way to copy or to paste something in there? Oh. Without it changing the automations? I like it the way it is though. Yeah, it's not like it's bad, but it's just, to me, it's a little bit too rough. So either I would want to have the synth kind of come in before, which I couldn't get to work. So what I'm looking to do now is just have a few reminders in here, like maybe here. Just have this final melody play again. But I want to paste it in here, and I don't want to have to modify all of the automations to how they are. I know that there's a way to do it, like if I find the different audio track. This is audio. Then drag it in. But having to do that every time is very, very annoying. especially if you want to move things around. Because also if I move this here, it messes up all of the automations. I don't know if there is a way to not have it do that. Maybe if I just make the fill more interesting, this problem will go away. Because right now it's just one kick. I'll probably do it like this. So we have the synth play the same way. You can lock the automation lanes like this. Lock envelopes. If locked to the song position, envelopes are unaffected by clip editing. If unlocked, envelope follows clip movement. Okay. Is there a way to like hold the shortcut and have that be? Because that would be nice. This means that, yeah, this is doing what I wanted to do. Right? Exactly. Loving that chord. This one, the acid thing. But I can keybind it, yeah. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I could just go like this here, not have that synth in there, and then, oh, give me a second, duplicate this over, and then duplicate this like this, so we have the normal synth in here. And then the only thing I would do is maybe a low pass filter for it to come in. Maybe I just want a delay from this, right? Yeah, I can keybind it, yes. I just need to learn the shortcut then. I would have loved it if you were to be able to use like Control-Shift-V for it not to modify automations. I could introduce the melody with a reversed, yeah, that could work. Right now, or maybe I just double the length here. Because I do want the kind of delay sound that is in here, right? But I don't want it to just suddenly come in like it was doing before. Or maybe I need to do this one, because that's the one that I use in this fill here. I mean, it kind of works. I can mask it a little bit. At this point, it's no longer the main lead, so it's an effect. So it doesn't need to be that loud either. It's just to get that feeling back a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to lose this part, and then these two kind of layer up here. What is this thing again? I don't think I want that here. Let's have a listen. Okay, if I want to use this, I'm going to make this one stereo. Yeah, because when the notes of that ARP come together by the delay, it starts to chord, and that's really nice. Yes, that's the idea behind the whole ARP here. I can play it like here. The whole idea behind this ARP was, or ARP asset line actually, is that it's the same asset line over and over again, and then sometimes it jumps, right? So just having this continuously is a little bit boring. So you can hear, I think right here, it just does like 3 little notes that are higher. And here there's no delay. But if you go to a spot where there's delay, those notes kind of morph together in the delay. The way that you do that is by having the notes offset from the delay length so that they kind of sync up when the delay kind of melts over each other or like repeats over each other. You kind of get that cool vibe here of the notes playing together then with the delay. Okay, I want this to be very stereo then, so that it contrasts with the main thing. It doesn't really layer now, right? It's because all of the notes are like... Let's try to do like this. Just trying to get like a little bit of a better rhythm out of this. Something like this maybe. Let's delete this and then just... Oh, that's 3 bars. That's not good. Is it? Ah, no, because that's at the end. Yeah, so you would get something like this. Maybe that's repeating a little bit too fast then. Right, between this and this note. Okay, I'll delete it here, because that's where I want the main thing to come through, which means that we have to duplicate it over again. It adds a little bit of texture to it. I don't want this here. Okay, so now for me this sound doesn't really work with this one here. Which means we should be able to just get out different tones from the tones pack. Here we have the same problem that we had before, where the notes sound like eighth notes because they're so long there. That sounds pretty cool. What I want to do is, since this is a pretty cool sounding fill, use this somewhere else too. That chord at the beginning of those sections was the actual chord I was referring to. This, the... This part? There's the vocal chord. Or do you mean this one? This thing. This is an actual chord, I think. Right? Yeah. So this is actually playing chords. You know, no worries about the typos. Sometimes it's just hard to understand what somebody in the chat is saying for me, because obviously the chat is like delayed, right? So that makes it, yeah, you just reply later than what the person that you're typing to is expecting, I guess, is the right way to say it. Yeah, going back here, I want to use this fill that we've now created somewhere else too, to remind the listener of it again. Maybe here is a place where we haven't used it or have any fill. We do have a fill here. Maybe if we do it like this. Okay, let's see what the delay is actually doing. Okay, so this is delaying here. Mix. Obviously we need to like meld these two together then as well. What is the vocal doing in here? The vocal is sitting mainly in the second part. Or it actually hits right at the halfway point, which is good, because that's where our thing changes. It goes from this idea of the fill into this idea of the fill. What I like to do with fills nowadays, and this came from the high-tech track, actually. Might be a good thing to quickly get that back in here so I can explain my idea behind these fills, if I can find it in the track. It's pretty far in the start, I believe. I think it's this fill here. It's basically made up of smaller sections of fills. I make 3 or 4 fills and then basically put them one behind the other. I think it's this thing here after the build. So you hear it's like 1, 2, 3, right? In terms of the different elements behind each other. And what I like to do is just have no delay between them or no effects between them. That worked particularly well for these elements here, because sonically they were very much similar. I need to make that work for this element then as well, because I feel like it's a little bit harder of a transition. Also, in terms of the structure here, it doesn't really make sense because we have 1, 2, and then 3. Normally what you would do is have 1 and then 2, 3. But this is really the kind of fill that you want at the end of your segment, and it's basically 4 long, right? It's 3 beats long, but it requires a bar or a beat of pause for it to be really good sounding. No, the vocal cords, I didn't know it was vocals till you mentioned it, but it sounds very pleasing. These ones. Then I have no idea what you're talking about, I'm sorry. So what I need to do for this fill is basically make this, I think, either like this and just have this, which is very boring. That does anything but having just one sound play here all the time. Doesn't really make sense. Right? Let's have a listen to how this sounds. I like that much more in terms of structure. I want a little bit of a stronger modification here. What I'm going to do is just up the mix here, I guess. And then not have any delay here. Yeah, that works. The not having the delay makes it so that, okay, so there's a delay in here, right? And then I just turn it down right here. That gives more impact to the vocal. So then it's clear where the bar line is, right? Because we immediately hear, okay, this is where the bar line is within the music. And that makes it feel like it's more of a structured feel than just the random things happening. Before, it didn't really feel like it was one feel. It was like, oh, you play this thing and then you play this thing, but it sounds like I'm skipping forward in the track or something like that, right? This one didn't really feel like a contrast or a question-answer thing to this thing here. Now it does. Was I fast enough this time with my moderation? Great new tracks, by the way. Thank you. Thank you. I'm assuming that you're referring to the album that I just put out. Flow State is my favorite. Nice. Nice. I like the second drop of Flow State. The first and the Flow State is an interesting story because I wrote a whole track and then I took the second drop from that track and then I rewrote the first and the last drop. So for me, I still have in my mind how the track sounded before I did that, but it didn't sound good. It didn't work, right? And now, because it was like normal rolling bassline, then it went into the second drop as that sliding bassline that's in there, and then it went back into the rolling bass line in the third drop. It didn't work for me, like I couldn't get the transitions right and everything. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to take the bass line from the second drop, make some modifications, and use that as the first and last drop bass line. As a consequence, though, there's a little bit more detail in the second drop, because I specifically wrote that drop with that bass line in mind, whereas the other two now kind of just needed to fit in the space. But I do think that it ended up like sounding cohesive, at least, which wasn't what it sounded like before. It was a fun production, though. The production is based, as a reference track, is based on Spiral of Colors by Outsiders. That you probably will find a lot of similarities in the second drop between the two tracks. Both second drops are fairly similar in terms of kind of the sounds that are being used, the big vocals. That way it progresses and gives you a cherry on top in the second drop. Yeah, it's, to me it just sounds like the, to be honest, obviously this is me complaining about my own thing, and I always see the negatives in my tracks. I produced this 2 years ago, so that's kind of expected, since the last 2 years I've been learning a lot, right? Also because I'm now broadcasting everything I do to the world, so I have to explain what I do, so I think about it a lot more. But in terms of kind of how it came about, knowing what I know about the track and how it sounded before I made all of those changes, it's definitely a big improvement, and the track definitely sounds nice. Right now, if I were to reproduce it, I would try to make it just work as like a rolling bass line, because I feel like the second drop has more details than the rest for me, right? Because there's like a few edits that I'm doing in the kick and bass and stuff like that, whereas in the first and third drop I just didn't do that. Yeah, everyone is their own worst critic. I can sit here for hours criticizing the music I just put out, but I don't want to do that because obviously then you guys wouldn't be interested in it as well. If I don't like the music, why should you? But if you are interested in the music, then as you can see, there is a bot in the chat that just posted the link where you can find it if you haven't done that yet. What else do I want to do? I did the fill here. And oh yeah, we needed to do transitions here. Yeah, I'll stop criticizing my own work. It's not a good thing to do, even though that's how you learn. Nice visuals too, by the way. Thank you. Took me 3 months, but it was worth it. The visuals is one of the things that I like the most about the album, because it's something that I've never done before, right? The tracks themselves are just productions for me, right? It's one production after the other. It's been a long time since I released music, and the music is fairly old that I made. Most of the productions were done 1.5 years ago, right? Like, were finished 1.5 years ago. But all of the visuals that I wanted to do, and all of the mixing things that I wanted to implement for this album, and the way that I wanted to, you know, polish everything, made it so that I spend a lot of time working on everything. So for me, the productions themselves don't represent what I'm capable of doing now, in terms of the music that I make. I do think that the music that you guys are hearing in this project is sounding a lot more cohesive and better than before. Do you have a release date for your new masterclass yet? I'm very interested. Not yet. I have 2 more chapters to make and then I will release it. Probably within the month. So hopefully this January. It's the annoying thing is that I get I hate to edit, right? Like every YouTuber. So the masterclass, the first mixing session I did for the masterclass was 5.5 hours of footage, and I had to mix that down, and I ended up with like, I can check. Give me a second. Here. This one is 4 hours, right? So I mixed it, so I edited it down to 4 hours, which is, it takes a long time to do. Do you have an estimated price? I have an exact price. I'm going to charge 50 euros for, or dollars, that I don't remember what Gumroad is using, but 50, I think dollars, $50 for just video, and then $100 for video and all of the projects and tracks and everything. So if you want to maybe try to mix it yourself, or you want to look at the project itself, that kind of stuff, I need to see what I'm actually going to put into it. But all of it together will be $100. And if you just want the videos, it's going to be 50, which I think is a very good deal, considering that it will be, give me a second, I'll check what the total runtime is now. It's already over 20 hours of footage. Editing videos, what's that? Yeah. I remember back in the day when I first started off, before my long big break that I took, I would just film everything at once and then post, like, put the intro on it, put the outro on it, and call it a day. Nowadays I do want to have some kind of quality, and especially for something like a masterclass, which is, I think I recorded, for the 20 hours of footage that I have now, I recorded more than double, right? So I do want to make it so that it's well put together and well explained, and the only real way that you can do that is through editing, right? Even now during the live streams, I'm kind of just rambling and I say whatever comes to mind. That's not really a good way to present a masterclass kind of thing. So I record a little bit, I say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I do it, and then during my recording I just stop talking, think about, okay, what I'm going to do next, and then I say it, and then I do it, and stuff like that. Obviously not the whole thing. I sometimes just sit down for a bit and just do things and say, okay, this is what I've done. But I think 90% of all of the things that I do to make the track are on camera and explained and stuff like that. So to make that, you do have to edit a lot. But now you're also chatting with your fans. Yes, obviously this isn't a video. This isn't the kind of content that I would consider worthy of just posting online, right? Even if I do like the videos where I did the stream highlights of me making a synth or something like that, I edit that down a little bit and I put an intro on it and an outro on it. This is just me having fun. It's not the kind of professional content that I would charge money for example. So the editing that goes into it is really annoying, and I really hate it. So to finish my story, why I don't have an exact release date yet is because I don't know how long it will take to do the final 2 chapters in terms of filming. And if my filming goes on very long, then the editing time goes on very, very long as well. Because it's not like a video. I can edit a video, even like an hour-long video, in a day, right? I don't get demotivated from the editing. But something like 6-7 hours of footage, it's just so much, right? Because you have to look through all of it. You have to make sure that you cut right, and you have to make sure that the transitions work and all of that stuff. And I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I always want to make it better. I never want to go back down in terms of quality. So it's just it's I don't know. That's the reason why I don't have an estimate, is because I don't exactly know how motivated I'll be to actually finish the editing part of the masterclass. Wait. Why does that suddenly like click? Ah, it's the distortion here. Maybe want to do I mean, I don't think this is... There's this little click on it because I'm modifying the filter before here. That works, now it's gone. Come on, man, you got fans waiting. I know, and I know I'm a bad kind of, I wouldn't say YouTuber, but I just have to put my mind through it. But it's, first of all, listening to yourself speak is very annoying because you get annoyed at the way you sound, which might not, I don't know if that sounds, like if you know what I mean. If you're not somebody that produces content, but you get annoyed at yourself by what you say and how you say it, right? Almost every editing things, almost everything I edit, I have some issue with how I present things or something like that. Every time I record a short, I end up recording like 5-6 shorts, and then one of the shorts is like 2 minutes of footage, and then I'm mad at myself, like, why did I take so long to make it? Now editing all of it down to 1 minute is going to be very, very hard. Hello, Forward. How are you doing? We have a lot of people here today. For an unannounced stream, not on a Sunday, that's amazing. It's still kind of there, right? It's not so pronounced, so it's okay, I guess. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed them. Actually, I'm coming back on this here. I don't think we need this sound in here. I think we need something else. Let's just unmute things. No, that doesn't work. I'm assuming that there's some kind of automation that I need to do here. Okay, so that also doesn't work. Let's try this. I do want the sound there, I just don't want it to be that sound. This is all very different in terms of style. It's much more glidey as opposed to the like metallic sound that we have in the main sounds or the main lead. Hello, Hardwick. That's not where we were. It's here. There we are. Okay, let's try if I do 2 of these and then have it go like this. Dash Kits and Projector are gold for real. Those tutorials are a gold mine for every Psytrance producer. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. It's the people that are watching that are making it possible. Okay, what I want to do here now is this transition. I think the sound comes in a little bit too hard. Maybe even still, maybe we move this like here and just have it come in a lot later. That's so true, they should do a collab video thing, lol. Guess what? There's actually I think 2-hour podcast that we did almost 2 years ago now together. And we're working on something else. No details. But there's a video of us two on Dash's channel. I think it was mostly talking. Yeah, it was just like a podcast. He did a few of them, the podcast with other artists, and I think I was the first one, wasn't I? No spoilers yet. Yes, no spoilers. But I think it will be a video that people will like if it comes out well, because it's something new that I'm trying. But if it comes out well, people will like it. No teaser either. No. We still need to film it. It's being organized. There's a lot of prep work for this one. Here is something that I don't like. The heads just stop a bar too early. It might have been an old fill thing. Okay. The next thing that I want to address is, I think it's this thing here. Or this one. Yeah. Here I'm just going to remove a lot of the mid-range because I don't really want all of this. I don't even know if I want to keep this riser. I think this idea comes from back when I did Big Room and stuff like that, before I got into Psytrance. What you would have is you would obviously not have build-ups in the drop, and therefore you would have like a lack of mid-range and sub in your build-ups. So you would add these kind of gritty mid-range layers to your build-ups, like this. But I've kind of just kept on doing it because I made Big Room for like 6 years, or House, or whatever you want to call it. And I just kind of like these tonal layers, but they never work within the context of a Psytrance drop. So I am using them somewhere else. I'm just going to zero this one out. I don't think it's needed. What that does mean is that I need to go back actually to the old EQ settings. There we are. This is just going to cause a mess in terms of your lower mid-range with regards to the kick and the bass, unless you specifically remove the kick and the bass here, which I might be doing in terms of like high passing it, but then still at the beginning it's not really needed, and it just sounds off to me as well. I think a lot more of these sounds should be here. This is more of like the atmospheric part. Even this stuff, I don't necessarily want this in here. I like this sound, but it's a bit loud here. I don't know if that's everywhere. I'll just turn it down for now. Yeah, this is much more where I want the kind of like slow atmospheric stuff to happen. I'll leave this one in for a little bit of power still. I don't like this one. You can see from the amount of stuff that's disabled here that I had a lot of issues with this part of the drop, because we're going in 16 bars from one of the most aggressive synths that I've made, I would say. This very distorted, very gritty kind of sound into one of the, like, how would you say it, the most chill kind of breakdowns, right? This is very chill, very light, which I like. I really like this breakdown. It sounds really cool to me. But the transition is really, really hard, and I'm still not happy with it. That doesn't really work. What if we move it like this? The reason why I'm doing it is I want the timing here to be similar to the timing here, or wherever you measure it from. The whole idea behind this track is that I'm using a method where, for one, this is what I call the asterisk method, where you have one main synth for each section. You can see them sitting around here. We have the asset lines, we have this synth, we have this thing here, we have whatever I was doing with the vocals and this synth, and then there's like all the one-shots that sit around it, right? That's why there's so many different one-shots that are only used in very small parts of the track. It's not like, okay, you create your 10 one-shots and then you use them throughout the whole track. It's more like very specifically designed for specific parts of the track. The idea is that it's the same kind of arrangement method that is used in Deep Jungle Walk, something that I noticed in the track even a while ago when I did the remake that I never finished of it. For the really old viewers of mine, they know that I tried to remake Deep Jungle Walk, which actually went pretty well. If you go back on my channel, you can see the one synth that I did end up nailing. I did a tutorial for it, so you'll be able to find that. But the whole principle of that was, okay, you have one main sound, you build your one shots around the main sound, and then you go from there. The other thing that I noticed is that his structure is very well divided. So if you have a one shot that sits, let's say that this is the starting point, your point of interest, or whatever you want to call it. If you have seen my arrangement video, you know all of this. If you have a sound sitting right here at this point with regards to the point of interest, and you call this your other point of interest, then that sound has the same amount of timing. So that's the whole principle behind all of the placements of these sounds, right? This one sound sits right before the point of interest, so it does here, so it does anywhere else that I'm using it in the track. That's the core idea behind this production. So that's why I move the things all together. And that's really, honestly, that's what I've been doing for a few tracks now. Just making sure that all of the timings in and of themselves are like 8 bars or 16 bars or 4 bars or 2 bars or even 1 bar for specific elements. But they are all like a standard timing. There's no, I don't know, 10 bar difference between the starting point of one element and the starting point of the next. That, to me, makes the structure much easier to understand, and therefore you can be more complex with the actual sounds that you use, because you always have that trade-off of complexity versus ease of listen to your track, in the sense that you don't want all of your sounds to sound complex, make complex patterns, have complex random modulations, and then also be complexly arranged, right? You only want a certain level of complexity, otherwise it's just too much. So this is one of the ways that I limit myself, so that I can have the space and the ability to put in so many different one shots and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. If it doesn't, then the arrangement video, I think, does a very good job of explaining the principle. I might want a different sound here that kind of has the same kind of feeling, because this sound, very bright and very high, obviously. Maybe I make it like this in here, and then open it up there, and then maybe something like this as well, so that it isn't so in your face, so aggressive at the start. Yeah, there's no other filter on there. That's this in here. There's a bit of an issue with transitioning into this sound here. You can hear how it's almost feels like it's pitching down immediately. Right, it's over this amount of time it feels like it's pitching down again. So it's really hard to kind of transition into there. I think I did it with this. I think though there might be a few annoyances in here that hinder it. Like this sound. Maybe let's not have that there then. Let's move that 8 parts forward maybe. Oh. Now it's a bit loud. Might be a good idea to slightly lower the filter here. Just like that. Let's see if that works on the bass. Feels like maybe the gain should go down a little bit here. Let's try 1.5 on there over this whole space. Because this is where all of the atmospheres kind of come in, right? Now I have some hard decisions to make, because by doing this, essentially our break kind of already starts here, because we're removing the kick and bait. This is no longer an actual drop, right? So that means that now we could color this maybe this color to signify that. That's not clear enough. There's no color between red and green. I'll just go with this. You can see what a massive break we have then. Right? 64 bars. Now that's long. That's almost... How long is that? It's over 1.5 minutes of not having a drop. Which is too long, in my opinion, for psytrance. Even for progressive psytrance, that's on the very long end. So what I want to try is get rid of this and this. Which means that we save 16 bars and we essentially compensate this. I can't do it here because this length is tied to the vocal. Although another thing we could try, which is maybe a bit more radical, is having this vocal sit here in the last 16 bars of this 24 bar piece. Which would mean what we then could do is potentially, let's draw this out, duplicate this. I'll draw this out so it's easy to see. Well, oh, sometimes I hit keyboards a bit too much. There we are. What we could do is then essentially have the vocals there. So we move this whole bit then forward, right? Because we would delete this bit here. Then I would also delete this and maybe go directly into the drop, because this vocal thing, or not the vocal thing, this thing relies on this as a transition. It doesn't work coming out of here, so I cannot really have it. So then I would put this here. Let's see what we're at for length now for a track. 730. I mean, that's okay for a Psytrance track, right? We just I don't want all of the tracks that I make to be over 8 minutes long, because that's on the longer end, right? Normally it's 6:30, 7 minutes is like the general Psytrance track. Longer tracks are like towards 8 minutes, 8.5, sometimes 9, or if you're insane like me, 11.5. The Awakening is 11 minutes 40, I think, something crazy like that, or 14. Either way, we could also do it like this, where we just add another segment, but then we would have to make a segment, which at this point the production is basically all right. We already have all of the elements that we want. I don't want to make another part here. What that does mean though is that I need to rewrite the way that this synth and the vocal thing that sit in here work, because they're really based off the structure now, right? The reason why I like them and why they work is because of the structure that we have. Let me close these groups so that it's easier to navigate. I just end up going up and down and up and down. Yeah, so to give you an idea of what the transition is now and why it works is I cannot transition into this thing from here because I feel like that would be too big of a transition. I mean, we could try to just move the vocals over and see what that leaves us with. I think that would be a thing to check at least. But I think it won't work because this is very big, grandiose sounds. Also, we're going to have trouble adding the vocal on top of this.
Now, simulation theory is the idea
I like
that we
this
are living in a simulation.
breakdown here because the vocal is so
The world that we live in is
almost on its own.
but it's just a simulation that somehow we are hallucinating, much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
And that then transitions into the synth, right? Which I like. I really like this progression. It's just too long, so it doesn't work for me. But all of the individual elements I really, really like. I don't think that going from here to this works because it kind of stops here. Maybe if we stop some of the elements a little bit prior, we open up a little bit of space and then we go into that. Otherwise, I think it's just too fast of a transition. What I'm going to do is just save this for now as this is called recover. I'll call it recover 2. And it's going to take a while. My mouse changed from the normal rolling thing to this for some reason. Now I have the old school loading thing. The only thing that I can think of is that it has to do with turning off snap in Windows 10, because I had issues with my monitors if I move stuff around, where you know, if you have the snap on in Windows and you drag something, it wants you to snap it to the top or to the side of the window instead of just moving it to the next monitor. So I turned that off and now my loading thing looks different. Either way, what that means is that one, we're going to lose this choir on its own if we want to do this, like moving the vocals here, because this choir is not going to fit in here because we need to make space for the vocals. All of this needs to be cleaned up. Let's just go like this. Actually, I do want to save this choir thing because that took a little while to make. So I'm going to, maybe if I use it somewhere else, remove that. Are there any things that are particular here? Yes, there are. All of this stuff is gonna go out here as well. This one is not specific to that, right? We use it there as well. Now we can delete the whole thing. Those synths are also in other parts of the track. So I just delete all of the elements and then move it forward. And obviously now our bottom thing doesn't work anymore, but the top one is now, hey, why does it not keep everything selected? Now the top one would be our actual structure track again. We would end up with this.
Hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix.
I'll probably turn this off here. Well,
inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
Yeah, stuff that we need to do is probably remove some volume from the sub bass, going into it. Maybe we'll do it over like the last 2 bars.
Inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
This thing I'm going to volume down, I think.
Inside the Matrix.
Let's just do it before here.
Hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
Yeah, I really want the last vocal to just come through. So for one, I'm going to put it here. So that's really
live out our lives.
At the end. And then this thing. This is the reverb of that. I can turn that down.
While we all live out our lives.
But there's also, I think, this. Yeah, I'm not going to have that.
Lives. Now we are hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
Actually, I want this stuff to go down a lot earlier. Oh, I should probably bring it back up here to 0. So that doesn't remove this part here. Oh, I remember this. This was very annoying because it's all these different unmarked parameters.
That somehow
probably want to have the bit more here. This one morphs a lot. And I don't know what anything is. Ah, this is actually the shimmer reverb that we're hearing. We'll keep a little bit of that in there then. And then it's just going to go down. Over like this last part here. And then this one will also go up slightly here and then down again.
That somehow we are hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
Okay, so now the transition is kind of there. It's a little bit rough, right? The kick and bass just kind of comes in because there's no real rhythm here. What I want to do is the same kind of thing that Asterix does in the very first drop of Deep Jungle Walk, and that's just to have like a sweep into it. That's usually an easy fix here, because then you kind of realize that something is coming. So you get an impact. These are a bit big in terms of power that they have. Probably this one. Probably this one here. Let's unwarp. That makes it longer. Nice. Okay, I just want the like sweep of it. Obviously don't want the impact itself.
Our lives.
And then it goes minus like 25.
Our lives.
It's a little bit long here. Okay, and then I just want to really boost the low mid-range of this. That way what we essentially get is just this being like a low rumble in there.
Live out our lives. Live out our lives.
Right, that really helps with the transition, I guess.
Live out our lives. Live out our lives.
Just makes it so that you hear that something is coming. I just want to make sure that it's not too loud.
Hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
Okay, it is messing slightly with the kick transient here. It's always a good thing to check, because we're doing filtering and stuff like that. We essentially want this to fade out a little bit so that the post-stringing doesn't interfere with the kick transient.
Out our lives.
Nice. Perfect.
Out our lives.
You just kind of hear it coming. We could maybe try even making this a bit longer. I'll keep a copy here, but I'll just maybe like lengthen it to like this.
Live out our lives. Live out our lives. Live out our lives.
Okay, so that doesn't sound good. Maybe if I go granular here. That's what I meant with when I talked about before the chat being a little bit late. At the moment that Klaus said sounds good was the exact moment that I said, so that doesn't sound good. It's kind of funny, I guess. It's because of the delay. First sounded good. Yeah, it's a little bit short. But for the rest, the idea is there. I guess here we get a bit of tonality towards the end. It's also buffering. Yeah, it's my internet just dropped for a good 20 seconds, which is strange. It's definitely not supposed to happen. We are making a little bit of a fade in. It's the smallest detail possible, but the idea is that because now we have the kick and bass kind of just happening here, we need something low rumbly or low end to just announce it, and that's what this is doing.
Live out our lives. Live out our lives.
I'm still not happy with its tonality. Right, it sits here, where I wanted to sit at G sharp. I guess what I could do, and this will kill two birds with one stone. Let's first of all set it to 0. I can just go down now. So D sharp, D, C, like this, I think. Okay, so that's actually G0. I want this then to be 6. Perfect, and then we cut off this last bit here.
Live out our lives. Live out our lives.
A little bit lower in volume.
Live out our lives. 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 Live out our lives.
Okay. Ionic, how are you doing? Nice to see you here as well. Genuinely, a lot of people are stopping by today. It's almost strange how many different people we had in the chat. Normally I get the stream elements report, so it will tell me after the stream how many unique viewers I've had, but it feels like I've had double the amount of other streams, which is strange because normally it's like on a Sunday, whenever like my normal streaming day is, and when I announce things, it's a lot more. But I guess that's, I don't know. Maybe it's because now that I've been doing it for like a few months, where I just randomly turn on the stream, people are more aware. Yeah, it is nice to have more people, because then there's more conversation. You're not talking to just your screen. You're talking to your screen and a whole bunch of people, which makes the conversation more fluent and keeps it going. And that's also more interesting for new people joining in.
Live out our lives.
Okay, so that's nice. Maybe a bit louder.
Live out our lives.
Also, it needs to be mono. Oh, this is annoying. I need to fix a whole bunch of things on the menu. This thing is very nice to have, but it's a pain to set up. And you need to check if everything works, which I didn't do. This, by the way, for anyone who uses Ableton, you should get Live Enhancement Suite for Ableton. And then if you double right click it, allows you to open up this menu. And what it does is anytime you click it, it will search it automatically and add it to the track that you've selected, which is really, really nice. Sorry if you answered already, but I'm curious, what is that background ambience? Background ambience. It's probably part of this. Right? Is that what you mean, one of these things? Or do you mean that the thing that we're working on here? Because this is just like a rumble going into it.
Idea that we are living in a simulation. That the world that we live in.
There's a lot going on in here.
World, but it's just a simulation that somehow we are hallucinating.
Yeah, there's the shimmer thing that's happening on here.
Matrix while we all live out our lives.
There's this specific sound in here. A highly pitched drone with a vocal in it. Aha, yeah, that's the shimmer reverb on this sound. I think it's now a little bit earlier because I moved it. It almost sounds vocally. But the sound is all shimmer reverb. This is shimmer from Catalyst by Dice Glitch. Obviously a lot of modulation, automation. I did make some edits. I like my mixes specifically to be at 100%. That's not how it comes normally. But there's a bunch of different things here. I think I also made the extra parallel bus. Maybe if Dash is still here, he can confirm that there's normally not just a single parallel bus like this in here. But I'm pretty sure I modified a whole bunch of different things in the actual preset. You can see that there is like an asterisk here. Catalyst is great, but you must have a good computer. Well, I don't use a lot of Catalyst. I really, to be honest, Catalyst is more designed for like full-on kind of psytrance. It's a little bit too aggressive for me. Most of the transition presets and the like generic presets, the shimmer is really, really good. So I use it for the shimmer anytime I want a shimmer. Right? So that's one. But I don't use the whole pack too much, right? So at the end it's not like it's consuming a lot of CPU, because this will probably be the only snap heap in the project in here. But overall, that doesn't take away from the fact that it's a good product. I do agree that that Catalyst is, for what it does, for the amount of things that it like automatically does for you in the transition pack and all of that stuff, it's very, very good. It's just not for me necessarily. Also, I'm the kind of guy that likes to have a lot of control over the stuff that he works with. So in that regard as well. Oh.
The idea that we are living in a simulation. That the world that we live in is not the real world. But it's just a simulation that somehow we are hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
Okay, so what I feel like is that it's still a little bit too sudden. I would like it to be... let's delete this marker track, because it's going to be only confusing here. I would like it to be like... oh, this. Like so. Right? So this would be like a little fill where most of the... I think specifically this element is gonna cut out. A little bit earlier. So we'll have... oh, I just want to move you. And then over here we'll like dip down like this.
But it's just a simulation that somehow we are hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives. Then is not the real world. But it's just a simulation that somehow we are hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives. Then
Okay, so this is the high pitch thing. Oh. There we are. Sometimes I just randomly forget keyboard shortcuts.
Simulation.
We are all
Somehow
been there.
We are hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
This one also is gonna go from here then.
Hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
And then I want more than 12 dB of volume reduction here. We have the output. Of my sidechain, we can also use that. Here, let's take away another few dB over this time maybe. It feels too sudden. Maybe you could tease the bassline and filter it in. I don't think there's enough space for me to have a kick and bass in this part as well. Then, and the second thing is that there's no other rhythmical element in here that it would work with. I feel like kick and bass filtering only really works if the break was designed with a rhythmical idea in mind. And really there isn't any. Well, there are definitely other things that have like other rhythms, maybe.
That we are living in
Like the vocal.
that the world that we live in is not the
Maybe I
real
can get
world,
another example.
but it's just a simulation that somehow we are hallucinating. Much like being cocooned.
Not really.
in the
It
Matrix
would
while
be
we all
just against the
live out our
vocal rhythm,
lives.
maybe. I do agree. To me, it sounds very sudden now, but I'm also used to how it was.
Is the idea that we are living in a simulation. That the world that we live in is not the real world, but it's just a simulation that somehow we are hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
I think I need to sleep on it. I definitely need to get familiar with the new version here. One thing that will definitely help here is just to feedback up to a nice long amount.
While we all live out our lives.
And then input gain, I'm actually gonna go down here and then just have the word lives. You could also play into the suddenness with a quick, sharp sweep up. Yes, that's what we're doing with this one, but this is just in the sub bass. I don't like those very high sweeps. They annoy me. No, I don't think they sound good. Like high sweeps into a kick and bass, right? You sweep up and then it kind of just drops in terms of the like frequency and then continues. So what we're doing is we're kind of just growling some noise at the low frequency into it, which means that the energy kind of stays at the same level, but it still fades in, right? So that's what this like little fade that we made is doing.
Hallucinating. Much like being
It is fairly
cocooned inside the
sudden.
Matrix
It's
while
over
we all
3 beats, so
live out our lives.
you can barely hear it. Once this mix is done, obviously then it would be a lot better.
In the Matrix while we
Maybe
all
like this you get an
live
idea.
out our lives. Live out our lives. Live out our lives.
Oh yeah, I want to remove the flute from this here. I'll probably make this more atmospheric. I do need to know how to do that. I guess that works as a transition. I think if I just fill this up with atmospheres, then that's okay in terms of the transition, because we have this big saw thing in here. And then the plugs themselves sound fairly epic to me, right? They have this big feeling to it, euphoric I should say. So that's what I would use. What I'm also going to do is just have this come in like this as a normalizer. Now we're lacking a few elements here.
Now let's begin.
Kind of like this part, I should say. This is done. I don't know what synth sounds weak at the end means. That's probably not relevant anymore. This is very loud here. Thought somebody was knocking on the door. Give me 2 seconds. Nobody there. Turns out they were vacuuming upstairs and it sounded like somebody was knocking on the door. They have been doing construction on the apartment above me. Like every once in a while they'll do like 2 or 3 days and it's just the whole day knocking down walls. I don't know what these people are doing. I don't think they have any walls left in their house, but it's like genuinely 4, 5, 6 days over the last year that I've been living here. That's what they have, is that there's cars out back and they just take away like broken up walls, right? The if you break one of those, you know, the bricks that aren't really bricks, that are like hollow inside, and if you hit them with a hammer they break in all small pieces, the like slightly orange brown bricks that have like the square holes in them. All of those, it's been like genuinely 4 or 5 days that I see them the whole day hauling down buckets and throwing them on the cinder block things. Yeah. I don't think they have any walls left in the apartment. Maybe that's what they're going for. Maybe they're just like redoing the apartment. But it's strange because they do it in like phases. So they'll not be doing any construction work for the next 2 months probably again, if like the trend continues. And then suddenly one day there's a big truck behind the apartment building. They throw in a whole bunch of different things. They come in with new material sometimes, and then they don't work on it for the next 2 months again. It's kind of strange, but I don't know. And now they were vacuuming, so I'm assuming that the construction crew left. Also, it's almost 9:30 here, so I don't think any construction crew would stay that long. But that was the noise that I was hearing. Anyway, I'm probably going to finish up here. I'll kind of do some housekeeping in going through my notes. But then I'll probably finish here, because it's getting a little bit late and I'm getting a little bit tired. Also, it's been almost 4 hours, as I see now, which is pretty long for me. But I have a final playthrough, and then we'll just look at the notes, see if the things still apply. More here, the transition. Here, and then here, like that, going in there. But it was a great stream. Thank you. I had a lot of fun today. It was a good one, yeah.
Matrix.
This synth here is loud. I think it's that one. The transition is starting to work more and more for me, of just suddenly switching to this synth. Maybe that's just ear fatigue. I could get away with no transition here, now that it's fixed. What I might do is add one more section of drop in here, seeing as we're at
Now, simulation theory.
like 7:30, we do have the space and time for that now.
That
And that means that this drop is just a little bit longer and the ratio break to drop becomes a bit
is not the real
nicer.
world, but it's just a simulation that somehow we are hallucinating. Much like being cocooned inside the Matrix while we all live out our lives.
These transitions, I need to work on it still. Here obviously more atmospheres is already there. I don't remember who asked, by the way, about the freeform phase video and where else you can use it. I'm using it here too. This sound here relies on the freeform phase to do its thing. Just remembered, thought that was interesting. I think it was at the beginning of the stream somebody asked that, right? I don't remember. These two say the same thing. And then it's kick and bass and outro, which I obviously still need to write. But yeah, that's it. That's the track for now, and I'm gonna keep on producing it, probably on stream. I've done about 80% of the production of this track on stream, I think. I don't remember ever doing like a big session of it not on stream, but I do remember doing like maybe 1 hour or something like that every once in a while. So that's what I continue on doing with this particular track. This will be like fully on, almost like fully on stream, right? But yeah, that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed what I did today. And next Sunday I'm not going to do a challenge. I'm going to do I don't know what I'll be doing. I'll need to think about it. But then the Sunday after that I'm going to start doing challenges, and the idea is that now I'm going to move the challenge to the Sunday, so that because on Sunday everybody's like free and people know that I always stream the Sunday afternoon. So what I'll be doing is every other Sunday there will be a challenge that you can participate in, and what we're going to probably do is have people give suggestions for the challenges that we're going to do. But I want to start doing a little bit more audience participation in that way, right? Because I do like, you know, talking to you guys, but I'm also interested in the music that you make and the way that you guys produce, and how I can adapt the way that I'm making tutorials and things that I do to maybe not your skill level, but to the way that you guys like to work. So all of that with the challenges hopefully gives me a little bit of extra insight in my community, which I think is important. So yeah, that's going to be it. Again, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you guys.